My grandparents reared and loved me from a young age. My dear granny died in a small accident. My long unheard from sister-in-law unexpectedly sent me a message during that time. "I need you to take care of your grandmother who passed away 3 months ago," the note said. I wanted to say so much, but my beloved grandmother is no longer with us. I was there when it happened. Everything would become clear as a result of this call. I'm a 45-year-old single woman named Linda Thompson. Back in college was the last time I experienced a substantial masculine presence in my life. After we broke up, I threw myself into the workforce, working weekends and overtime in the marketing division of a large cosmetics firm before I graduated. Before I realized it, I had lost the opportunity to marry. I took a desk job at a nursing home 6 years ago after changing careers, but that isn't the reason. I used to take crowded trains for an hour and a half each way, and I was lucky if I could get home on the last train. My current workplace is less than 10 minutes bike ride from my house. According to the calendar, I get my regular days off, and overtime is essentially non-existent. However, I also move jobs for other reasons. I've never left the house where I grew up. If I do say so myself, I'm fairly competent at domestic tasks, and I'm confident in my financial situation. Then why haven't I left? Because my family, especially my beloved grandmother, is very important to me. California is where I was born and reared. My brother, who is 5 years older than me, my parents, and my grandparents make up my family. He's 50 years old and goes by Brian Thompson. Even though I just mentioned how much I like my family, I have mixed feelings about my brother. He was once my brother, and I loved him. He always took care of his younger sister and was a kind and considerate elder brother. However, Brian evolved. He got a job selling cars after graduating from college, moved out on his own early, and married a coworker 2 years later. From then on, we gradually grew apart, and he never shows up at our childhood home, not during Thanksgiving, not during spring break, not even during the Christmas holidays. I vaguely know that he lives somewhere in the South, but that's about it. I don't even know if he has children. I can't even remember when I last saw Brian's face or when we last spoke on the phone. It feels like it's been at least 5 years. Ever since I became a manager, I've been super busy. "I'm leaving everything home related to you." Those are the last words I remember from Brian. My current impression of him can be summarized as, what an unfeeling man. That's why I made a career change and decided to not move away from my childhood home to protect the house. My parents are both retired. My grandfather, 93 years old, suffered a stroke a few years ago, and though he recovered, he requires constant care and can't live independently. Currently, my parents are taking care of him. And then there's my grandmother, Betty Thompson, aged 92, my dearly beloved Grandma Betty. In our house, both of my parents were working, so it was my grandparents who took care of my siblings and me when we were little. Especially Grandma Betty. She taught me everything I needed to survive. These days she can't get out much, but she's lively enough to walk around the house freely. That's why I decided to change my job and work in a nursing home so that I can take care of her if anything happens. On one particular day, "I'm off to work," I said, as I was getting ready to leave the house when Grandma Betty called from behind me. "Linda, you forgot something." "Huh?" "I didn't forget anything," I replied. But she said, "Here, have some hard candies," and handed me a few black licorice candies. "Oh, right. Thanks." That brought a smile to my face. Licorice has always been a favorite of both Grandma Betty's and mine. I put them in my suit pocket and left the house with a smile. Suddenly, tragedy struck. Or maybe it's called a tragedy because it happened suddenly, but that doesn't matter now. Grandma Betty had a severe accident. According to my father, after she had hung her laundry on the balcony upstairs as usual, she missed a step on the stairs and fell. It was something we always feared. We always told her to leave the laundry to Mom and Dad, that the stairs were dangerous and not to go upstairs. But Grandma Betty, like me, was stubborn. She was a believer in doing what she can do by herself. No one is to blame. It was just an unfortunate accident that could have happened at any time. Everything happened quickly after that. Grandma Betty, who had suffered complex fractures through her femur and pelvis, never made it home from the hospital. Just 4 months later, she passed away due to old age. Of course I was sad, and I did cry. I cried and broke down crying, but I am an adult now. And now I am the breadwinner of this house. I don't have time to wallow in sorrow. Funeral, cremation, internment. I had to take care of everything. Grandma Betty was originally from the Midwest, and now we don't have any close relatives to contact. We decided at a family meeting to have a funeral only with close family members. We have to invite my brother and his wife. I thought they would come without hesitation, but I was wrong. I couldn't reach them by phone or WhatsApp. I also sent an email, but no reply. I sent a text message as a last resort, and the reply came on the day of the cremation. I'm very busy overseas for work. Sorry, but I can't make it. I'll send the money later. It said, I don't care about the money. Upon seeing the message, I found myself speaking out loud unintentionally. Could his job really be so important that he can't even make time to say goodbye to our grandma who adored us so much? It's hard to accept. Into Grandma's casket, her makeup impeccably done, looking like she was just peacefully sleeping, we placed flowers, a photo of Grandpa, and her favorite black candy. Something changed in my perception of my brother while doing this. From that moment, I started to despise him. Since then, the seasons have changed, and it is now winter. For me, it doesn't matter whether it's spring, summer, autumn, or winter. I don't care if it's always winter or always summer. I've even considered quitting this job, but Grandpa is still alive. My parents will need care at some point too. I still need to earn a lot for that. With those thoughts, I was mechanically getting through my work. During the lunch break on a weekday, my heart filled with emptiness. Then I got a call from an unexpected person. If it hadn't been registered, I wouldn't have answered. My smartphone displayed, sister-in-law. She is Heather Thompson, 46 years old. She's my brother's wife. In other words, she's my sister-in-law. The only time we talked was briefly after their wedding. That's all I remember. Why would she be calling now? Maybe I should just ignore it, but the ringing won't stop. Finally, I sighed and decided to pick up the phone. Yes, this is Linda. Sorry to disturb you at work. This is Heather, Brian's wife. It's been a while, Heather started with an apologetic tone. That's right. Despite being in a higher position and older, she always maintained a humble attitude. When she suddenly decided to marry my brother, she made sure to greet my parents and me, even on behalf of my brother. To put it simply, she's a good person. That's why I couldn't understand why she would contact me now. It's okay, but do you need something? I tried my best not to sound cold as I asked. It's hard for me to bring this up. Heather hesitated for a moment before continuing. About Betty. You're her granddaughter. What happened to my grandmother? I barely raised my voice. We've been taking care of her on my husband's orders. But it's already past the promised 1 month. Could you possibly come to pick her up? What? I couldn't comprehend what Heather was saying. So, we're taking care of Betty at our, wait a minute. That was all I could muster. Think, Linda. Think. So you're saying that you've been taking care of my grandmother Betty, who died 3 months ago? This was the question that came out after thinking hard. I knew it sounded nonsensical, but so did Heather. Yes, we've been taking care of Betty at our wait. She died 3 months ago. A genuinely surprised voice replied, Why don't we calm down a bit? I suggested, and Heather agreed. A few minutes later, regaining my composure, I carefully explained to Heather how my grandmother had passed away. In contrast, Heather's response was utterly perplexing. At the house where Brian and Heather are living, she said, we were told that your grandmother needed care and to take her in until arrangements were made at her home, and that they have been living together with my grandmother. There are 2 possible conclusions. We're both not lying, right? This was the first one. If that's true, then my brother Brian is the one lying. This was the second one. I had anticipated it to some extent, the reasons why one would tell such a blatant lie that would be exposed so quickly. But now, there are things I need to do before pursuing that. I'd like to get in touch with Brian right away, but he's basically unreachable on his mobile. I told Heather I've never used my husband's cell phone either. He won't let me, she continues. However, I think I could talk to him on my cell phone while he's at home, she says. And I interject, he's been working remotely more often lately. I think if I ask, he'd probably be able to have a video call. I certainly think there's power in face-to-face persuasion. But there's a problem. I'm not even sure where you two are living now, I mentioned. We've been living in Y City in California for over 10 years, so it's easy for us to visit your house, Linda, she says. For now, we agreed to talk to Brian on Heather's cell phone at night and ended the call. We devised various other plans with mixed feelings. Y City is just the next town over. How much lying will satisfy him? Expecting me to take care of some stranger's old woman just a few months after Grandma passed away? It's too much. No, it's repugnance. I got home and called Brian on Heather's cell phone at the appointed time of 8 p.m. By the way, Heather is also waiting in my room at home, thanks to our kindness and enthusiasm. Despite my constant attempts to contact him, he answered Heather's cell phone in just 3 rings. I made sure the conversation was audible to Heather by putting the sound on speaker. Heather, where are you right now? You haven't even prepared dinner, he says in an imposing and arrogant tone. He's not the Brian I knew anymore. It's me, Brian, I declare. Huh, he's clearly confused. I thought so and waited for my brother's words. That's Linda, isn't it? Why? Where's Heather? I'm here, Heather replies tersely. Why are you with Linda? Brian stammers for a moment, then quickly finds his words. Don't tell me. Did you tell Linda about that matter? He asked. Yes, I did, she replies with a calm demeanor. I told you it was too early to talk about it. He exclaims. My brother's sudden shift in attitude, that issue, of course, it's about our grandmother. I've heard from Heather that you've been working remotely lately, I began. What about it? I could almost see the scowl on my brother's face. Why don't we talk face-to-face using a remote work app from here on out? I'll send you the ID and password, I suggested. If you refuse, I'll take Linda and go back home. Heather offers cover fire. Fine. My brother grudgingly agreed in a reluctant tone. I sent the ID and password to my brother using Heather's smartphone. We waited a moment. Although the face that appeared on the computer screen was slightly fatter than the last time I saw him, it was undoubtedly my brother, Brian. It's Brian. So, what's so important that we have to face each other to talk about? I'm busy here. His attempt to play dumb at this point made my blood boil. Isn't it obvious? It's about our grandmother. What do you mean by saying we should take in our grandmother, who died 3 months ago? To my surprise, he replied calmly. You must be misunderstanding something, my brother calmly continued. Our grandmother isn't dead. I'm taking care of her at my place. It was you, Linda, who asked for this, wasn't it? What? I was at a loss for words. Was he really so afraid of Heather finding out the truth? Could a person really stoop this low? And this was my own brother. I was so angry that I was on the verge of tears. But I sent you a text message. I said through tears. I don't remember. Grandma's here with me right now. Do you want me to bring her here? I want you to bring her here. Brian was completely defiant. I had no time for tears. Brian left his seat and returned a few minutes later with an old woman in a wheelchair. Say hello, Grandma. Linda, it's been a while. I'm Betty. The old woman spoke in a halting voice. I just wanted him to stop this farce. I felt anger boiling up in me again. She's a completely different person. Indeed, the old woman on the computer screen was nothing like my beloved grandmother. For one thing, my grandmother would never call me Linda. As you age, your appearance changes. She's been showing signs of dementia recently, so it can't be helped that her memories of you are vague. Brian seemed determined to deny everything to the bitter end. So you won't acknowledge the death certificate submitted by the district office? Of course not. Documents can be forged these days, he smirked. I was prepared for this. I had a plan in place. Just wait. I'll show you some evidence too. Leaving a perplexed Brian behind, I exited the room. A few minutes later, I returned with the evidence. Well, isn't it, Brian? Long time no see. You ungrateful one. Grandpa? You were supposed to be bedridden. Faced with the sudden evidence, Brian's eyes grew wide. At one point, I was prepared to die. Even now, I can't go to the bathroom on my own, but my brain's still in good shape, Grandpa continued. I've heard all about it from Linda. Are you saying that the one there next to you is my wife, Betty? Nonsense. Betty was a lot more beautiful. Cornered, Brian hung up his phone. He was probably trying to log out of the video call. Heather, who had remained silent till now, spoke up. Are you running away, Brian? Going to Catherine's place. Brian's face turned pale, clearly visible even through the computer screen. How do you know that? I thought this for a while now, Brian. You underestimate me, Heather. And sis, your grandmother has frequently let it slip. Catherine. Catherine, of course, is not my name, nor our mother's. Well, that's... I also confirmed with Linda, and she had no recollection of the name Catherine. I had a suspicion for a long time and hired a private detective to investigate possible infidelity. The results came out quickly, pictures of you at the scene of the affair, that your grandmother is Catherine's grandmother, and that you've been preparing various things to divorce me. Yes, everything started from Heather's women's intuition, that Brian had a high chance of having an affair with another woman. A relationship with a late-20s subordinate at work named Catherine. Brian had taken over the care of her dementia-stricken grandmother to win favor with Catherine. He was also plotting to dump her into a care home and push her off on my family home before admission. He was planning to divorce Heather without any blame and remarry Catherine, using every means possible. Heather proved all of this and then approached me. Honestly, she is an extremely intelligent woman, which seemed unimaginable from her appearance and demeanor. Do you have anything to say? I asked Brian, only intending to listen. I'm really sorry. Forgive me. I didn't mean to deceive you. Heather too. I'll break up with Catherine. So said Brian, bowing his head through the screen. Science these days has certainly developed. We can clearly see your crying face from afar. Grandpa, please help me. Fool. After using Betty and betraying my beloved granddaughter and daughter-in-law, I don't ever want to see your face again. This is the last time. Linda, you too. Well, the most authoritative person here is Grandpa. And by the way, I also never want to see your face again, Heather. I've already completed the divorce mediation process. I'm going back to my parents' house. So let's meet in court next. Well then, goodbye, big brother. With those words, I hit the exit button on the remote conversation on my laptop. The seasons have changed, and it's now the time of the autumn equinox. I was alone, visiting my grandmother's grave. With hands clasped together, I made various reports in my mind. Brian divorced Heather. Naturally, the outcome was overwhelmingly in Heather's favor. Brian ended up having to pay an enormous amount of alimony and even came crying back home at one point. However, thanks to Grandpa, who's still mentally sharp, a virtual disownment took place. Apparently, even his will states Brian is no longer family. He had wished to remarry Catherine, but women in this world are not so sweet as to marry a divorced man in his 50s with not only zero savings but debt. Eventually, he had to quit his longtime job at the automobile company, and now he's reportedly living in a cheap one-bedroom apartment and paying alimony while working odd jobs. In this day and age, it's probably difficult for someone over 50 with no significant qualifications to get reemployed. It's all a case of reaping what you sow. Most of the information about Brian came from Heather. Heather and I hit it off after that, and we meet quite often for tea as friends. But that being said, I finished everything, grandmother. I'll come again, I said as I stood up from the gravestone. Then a slightly strong breeze blew, and at the same time, I heard a voice I loved so much. Lynn. Thank you. Please take care of your grandpa for a little while. Grandmother. I muttered. Then I suddenly noticed that I was gripping something in my right hand. There was a piece of black candy in my palm. That was strange. I didn't bring any black candy as an offering today. I'm not particularly a believer in gods or ghosts. Could it be? Grandmother? No, that couldn't be. There's always black candy at the altar, so I must have picked one up unconsciously and put it in my pocket, then forgot about it. But if I think that my grandmother is still watching over me somewhere, I feel like I can keep doing my best in life. Thank you, Grandmother, I murmured, looking up at the sky, and left the graveyard.